Welcome to Contact Front. I am the Arctic Fox, and this is the start of a new series, the first series really, called War Stories. Basically, I will be playing a very casual game, and as I do so, I will relay some of the more interesting things that happened during my time in the military. Perhaps in the future it'll go to more life experiences, but we're going to stick with the military for now. So we're just going to go with career. This is Shipbreaker. It's in beta. It's you can get up to about the 7th level for story-wise, and then you just kind of go on your own. That's all they have so far. I enjoy it. If you just like taking stuff apart. So I'm going to go with a very simple ship, just so I don't really have to think much. We'll go down to a grade 1 mackerel. And with this being the first episode, I think I'm going to go with my military origin story. So we're going to start, well, first off, we're going to start by fuel. God, we're low.
Welcome to Vintatron 9000.
Alright, so we're going to get some fuel, and then we'll start in the game. So my military career started really when I was a teenager. I would go to friends' house and we would just watch military movies all day, all night, till like 3 in the morning when we had sleepovers, stuff like that. And I just loved the military, and the Marine Corps especially. In my mind, they were the most elite you could get without, having to join Special Forces. And not that I didn't want to join Special Forces, but my eyes are not the best in the world, and I always thought that I would be probably not qualified simply because of that. I found out later that really wasn't the case, but oh well. So I graduated high school in June 2001, and I believed that my destiny was the military. So I didn't even look at colleges, just went right to the recruiter and was like, yep, sign me up. I got put into the delayed entry program, and I was to leave at some point in 2002. I want to say June 2002. And I was in the delayed entry program, so I went there and did running and pull-ups and all that other stuff, and I insisted on always running in boots because I don't know, I've worn boots my whole life and I have the heel spurs to prove them, but that's I threw up a lot from it, and they kept telling me, no, you can't run in boots, you gotta have sneakers, and I was very, very hard-headed. It's not changed from then to now. So I should say my real military time started, as for many, on September 11th. I was sleeping at home. I just graduated high school and waiting for the military, so I didn't have much going on. I just hung out, really. I worked at a local pharmacy convenience store, so there really wasn't much for me to do. So I was sleeping, and my brother came into the room and started yelling, "A plane hit the Twin Towers." And I went, okay. And even at young age, the first thing that came to my mind was the bomber that accidentally ran into the Empire State Building in the late 30s, early 40s, around there. So I was just like, okay, it was an accident. That's great, whatever. And he's instantly like, come on, you gotta check out the news, it's crazy. Alright. Drag myself out of bed. Sit there for a second contemplating the meaning of life. And and I go and I turn on the news. And I turned on the news approximately 5 seconds before live television. The second plane hit the tower.
Material deposited.
And even at 18 years of age, I went, oh, that's not an accident. And I was riveted on the TV and watched for the whole day. I called up my recruiter, and I'm pretty proud to say that it took me a long time to get in contact with my recruiter. So many people were calling him. And finally got a hold of him, and I said, hey, I want to leave sooner. You know, next year's not soon enough. We just got attacked. I need to leave sooner. He's like, alright. He comes back like an hour later. He says, alright, you can leave tomorrow. And I was like, whoa, that's too soon. You know, I need a little time to say, like, goodbye to people and stuff. He was a little annoyed, but I'm like, hey man, like, whatever. And he's like, alright, you can leave in 2 months, which is much faster. So I was like, alright. And I left. I started boot camp on November 26th, 2001. And, yeah, I enjoyed boot camp. It was pretty easy. Well, at the time it wasn't easy. But when, whoops, I'm gonna turn that off. I forgot to turn it off the walls. At the time, it wasn't easy, but looking back, boot camp is probably the easiest time that you will have in the military, bar none. You know exactly what's going on. There's a schedule. Like, you can literally go print out a schedule, and you will know exactly what you were doing day in and day out. You will never, ever, ever have that again in the military. Like, you'll be like, hey, what are we doing today? Oh. So I went to boot camp. I lucked out. I went during the winter. Marine Corps boot camp for the East Coast at the time was Parris Island, infamous. And the biggest thing about Parris Island is it's an island. So it's surrounded by water, it's very moist. And these things called sand fleas. And as you kick around in the sand and the grass, they oh, damage cutter. They come out and they bite you. They get hungry. And if you're in formation, you're not supposed to be moving. If DI sees you kill a sand flea, you're in for a bad time. I remember he saw a buddy hit one and he just goes over and he screams at him and says, "Recruit, did you have lunch today?" "Sir, yes, sir." "Good, let them eat." And he just sat there and watched him as the sand flea chewed on him. So, you know, it was good times. But I went during the winter. So the sand fleas really weren't as bad. They came out a little bit during some of the warmer parts. I graduated in February. So, while still mostly cold, it was warm enough that they were starting to come out. Graduated boot camp February 2002, and then went to School of Infantry. Every Marine is a rifleman, but not every Marine is a rifleman. I was a rifleman. MOS 0311. So, I went to a specialized infantry school, and I can say, while boot camp was the easiest time of my career, SOI was probably the worst. This was right at the beginning of the War on Terror. And the way the Marine Corps works is if you want to get promoted, I think past sergeant, I think it's staff sergeant or whatever, you have to do these things called B billets. And B billets are things like recruiter and I think range instructor, PMIs. I think that's a B billet. But another one is SOI instructor or MCT. So this is right at the beginning of the War on Terror. There's not a whole lot of operational knowledge going around the Marine Corps. The last real war that they had was the Persian Gulf, and that was, you know, years prior. And there wasn't a whole lot of, you know, land combat in that war. So a lot of the instructors were, how to put this, terrible. Terrible. I won't go into names, but they were just, they just liked having the tiny bit of power that they were given. Just they didn't know what they were talking about. I had one instructor who was fantastic. Again, I won't say his name, but I had one instructor who was absolutely fantastic. He knew what he was talking about. If he wasn't special forces, he acted like it. And if you've not been in the military, you can. Whoa! Don't I die? There's a lot of times. There's a guy. He's like a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL or whatever. They just carry themselves in a different manner. You can just tell. You go in there. That's how this sergeant acted. He cared about teaching us, whereas the other sergeants didn't. And I can honestly say that the 8 weeks that we had for School of Infantry was the worst. There were some highlights. I'm very good at land navigation, and we had a competition, and all of a sudden everyone wanted to be my friend. You know, first time shooting a machine gun, stuff like that. It was, you know, there were some good times, but the vast majority of it was just terrible. After that, I was assigned to a unit in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where basically I learned that if we had learned anything at School of Infantry, basically just forget it. Like, whatever they taught us was antiquated and terrible. And they're right. I mean, there was one drill that we had where it was like, alright, a plane is strafing you. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to lie down perpendicular to the path of the plane that is strafing you. That's going to minimize the amount of coverage that the plane will have. It'll minimize casualties. Alright, you're with me there. You're going to take your rifle and you're going to stick it up in the air and you're going to fire as the plane comes by. I was like, really? Like, you want me to shoot a rifle at a jet? Like, you sure this isn't like from World War I? So yeah, a lot of the tactics we had were Cold War, Vietnam, World War II even, and honestly, some of the stuff I think was earlier. So we went there and we did a lot of field training. I had some pretty good senior Marines. Taught us a lot. You know, I had some guys I didn't disagree with, but that's anyway. And we trained with them for about a year, and then December 2002, so less than a year training. December 2002, we're on Christmas leave, and our command says, alright, so when you're going home on Christmas Eve, leave. don't freak your families out and tell them you're going to Iraq. Because you're not. It's like, alright. Head home on Christmas Eve. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, you know, Bush and Iraq and the war. And I'm like, don't worry about it. We're not going to war. Everything's going to be fine. So I get back from Christmas Eve. And leave. I keep saying that. And as soon as we get in, they're like, alright, pack your shit, inventory everything, we're going to Iraq. Son of a bitch. So, yeah. So, that's it for now. That's kind of my origin story. A little rambling, but, you know, that's me. I did a quick, easy ship. So I can just get that out. And I think the next one will go on my adventures during the invasion. This has been War Stories with the Arctic Fox. This is Contact Front, and I will see you next time.